Hello everyone, welcome to another ride with Mo Allen. In this ride I will be racing the Zwift Epic Race on the Deca Dash route. I rode this one at 7 p.m. local time, so apologies for the screen being cut off at the top there. I was trying something different in my screen recording software. If you notice in my previous videos, the webcam is actually a little outside of the screen capture, and I tried to correct that with this recording, but I hadn't noticed that it actually stretched the screen past the bounding box, so apologies for that. But as you can see, only 4 riders to start here. I guess actually 5. That 5th rider was never part of our ride though, really. So I was actually hopeful that this might be sort of a chill group ride with this relatively low rider count, but that was not the case. You'll see there are some fireworks here that happen shortly. So this route is the Deca Dash route. It's an all category race, an E race, so Zwift Racing Score level 0 to 1000, basically everyone. So it's 52.6 kilometers with 500 meters of elevation. And what we're gonna do is ride down towards the Jarvis Island and do the Jarvis Island reverse, and we're going to climb the Jarvis KOM 10 times. So I've done this once before. Interestingly, maybe I just don't remember, but in this ride I was surprised at how quickly you come around to climb again. Like, it was almost unbelievable to me how quickly the climb came again. Maybe that speaks to a combination of the fact that this is the second time that I've done it, so I'm just not familiar. Or the fact that there are so little riders, so I had less distractions and could pay attention more, or my level of fatigue or fitness. I'm not sure which of those, or if it was something else, but it was surprising for sure. So the ride starts out pretty chill here. After a few minutes, 290-ish watt average, 154 beats, so nothing too crazy going on right now. I didn't do any recon on these riders who I was with, so as always, my strategy was just to try to stay with the front for as long as I could. I felt, the first time I did this, I felt pretty strong on most of the climbs, and I've been riding and climbing well recently. I've been keeping up with the rides on the plan from my coach. And again, my coach's, as always, my coach's details are in the description of this video. That's watts per kilogram coaching. Great run, bike, swim, any combination of those, and triathlon coaching. Check them out if you're interested. But so I've been doing pretty well with my fitness, and it's been showing. So I've been climbing pretty well for me. I went into this with a combination of not excitement, but I was hopeful because of the climb, or because of how I've been climbing. But also, I'm coming off of a vacation. So this is Sunday that I raced this, and on Friday I went away for the weekend. I was only able to do a 3-mile treadmill run while I was away. And I also, as one does, so here we go, turning into Jarvis here, where the fireworks will shortly start as we start the climbs. As one does on vacation, sometimes, as I do. I didn't eat the best, so my diet was a little off and I was feeling it. This ride was done several hours after I came back from vacation, so I was actually, I'll be honest, I had 2 choices to race tonight. One of them being this ride where when I registered, there were only 2 other riders registered, or the off the map stage 2, which I had done the off the map stage 1 on Volcano Climb after party. The stage 2 was on the It's a Climb finish route. That had many more riders registered, but one, this was the ride on the plan for the week, but also I kind of hoped that it wouldn't be with only 2 other riders registered. I was hoping maybe it would just be a sort of a chill ride and I could put in a good sprint at the end of an hour and 20 minutes or so, but that did not turn out to be the case. So here we go with the first climb. Again, my last video, you'll see that I drafted really well, and it really opened up some new perspectives for me in drafting. So I figured I would continue that momentum into this ride, only with 4 riders in this group. You can see that I'm staying in the back, and I plan to do that and just mark the wheels, even up the climbs. I couldn't be sure what the abilities of the riders were around me, or at least I wasn't sure. I didn't do any recon on any of them, so I just figured I would try to give it my best. I knew these climbs are short relatively, basically a 2-part climb. You got that little part that we just went up there, and then you have a bit of a flat section before a shorter, steeper part. And it's a really interesting climb to do 10 times. So going into this mentally, I'm glad that I got on the bike, but also know that I'm not, feeling incredibly strong after my weekend away, but I'm going to give it my all on this one. So that first little part was able to stay with the group. This part, it's interesting too, as people pop these power-ups. I hadn't realized, and this is one of the things that I can do better in terms of recon for the race in general, which I actually did try to do recently, but realized that the event on the Zwift companion app did not give any information about this, and that's what the power-ups were for the ride. I think it was the off the map, maybe, that I did. I'd realized that the ride before that, I wasn't aware of what the power-ups were, so I tried to correct that with the ride, with that off-the-map ride. I'm pretty sure it was off the map, but was a little disappointed to see that in the description of the ride on Zwift Companion that it didn't mention the power-ups available at all. So in this ride, I it wasn't until I think like 45 minutes in or something like that that I realized that you get the same one power up after multiple, like there's multiple segments or opportunities to get the feather power up. And so I wasted a long bit of this ride not popping the power up. I saved it for the first several climbs until the beginning of the first climb. Well, until actually, I never use it on the beginning of the first climb, always the beginning of the second climb, the second part of the climb. So that was a mistake, but I did correct it eventually. You'll see later on, I'll comment on it, but the rider that I end up, we do get separated, and the rider that I end up riding with for most of the ride, they never used their power up until also the second part of the climb. And I actually want to, I'll probably comment on their Strava activity or otherwise on the Zwift companion app and find out if they knew that. I can only imagine that they had the same blind spot that I did in terms of the power-ups. It's interesting, though, that when I started, I realized it and corrected my mistake and started using it before every banner because I knew it'd just get a new one, that they also didn't use it. Maybe they didn't realize that it would refresh, but I did want to reach out to them and kind of let them know that they could have been taking advantage of those power-ups each and every time. So anyway, that's the first climb done. Was able to stay with the group. 296 watt average at the moment, so fairly high watts. So you'll see, the watts are put down mainly on those two climbs, and then it's just a short. And again, this is where I was talking about that I hadn't realized that the climb was coming again so shortly. So right here, this is an opportunity where I could have hit the power up here and I would have gotten another one right there through that banner. Interestingly, no one else did it either now that I'm looking at this, but so maybe we all sort of made that mistake. I don't feel so bad watching this back now. But you'll see we'll curve around here, and the map you can see at the top right splits off to the left or to the right. To the left will go back towards the volcano, and to the right just goes right back through the sprint segment and then to the climb. So when I saw this, I was like, oh wow, so we're just going right back to the climb again. And so it was good that I realized that early on, but it was surprising. So here we've got D. Whitfield ahead, putting in some watts. So I put in a little bit of an effort to try to not let them get too far away. But again, I knew this is a long ride. This is our second climb. And if they're just a lot stronger than I am, then trying to close that down is not going to be fruitful, or smart. So I didn't put in like a huge effort. I mean, I put it definitely a good effort, but not a huge effort to shut it down. So I let another rider come past me here, and I'm gonna try to sit on their wheels as they're pushing big watts too, and see if I can ride with them to shut it down. And the other rider behind is with us as well. So one rider off the front, and now I'm just sitting in here and getting ready for the second part of this second climb. So here is where the separation happens. That rider in front, Siarka, they went ahead and caught up to the rider, D. Whitfield, and I'm here with Winans. And this is who my new group is. So we've now separated 2 and 2. Those riders in front were way stronger than I was, and I believe way stronger than Winans was. Looking in Zwift Power at Winans' stats, it seems like, and they commented on my comment. They replied to my comment on their Strava activity, congratulating them on their ride, that they were well matched to me in terms of FTP, weight, height. So given that's the case, I think that those 2 riders ahead were way stronger. And you can see in the Zwift Power results, which I'll show at the end, that their average wattage was over almost 1.5 watts per kilogram over what I did. I think 1.3 over. So way stronger. So good to let them go and just sit in with Winans here. Now, I did not know at the time what kind of rider Winans was, but I stayed with them, and again, getting in some draft tactics here, not pushing in the front, just trying to see what kind of ride they were going to put in on the laps when it was just us, if they were going to coast down any of the, so you can see them taking off there, coasting down a little bit of the downhill. So really just trying to figure out what kind of ride they were going to put in when it was just both of us. So I am in front here, but you'll see that I will prefer to ease back right there and try to not let them go. So here we go now. This is the 3rd climb and the first where it's just the 2 of us. So now I'm trying to sit in and see what kind of efforts the rider in front is going to put in, and just try to mark their wheels for the rest of the ride. So only if it seemed like there was an obvious discrepancy in like our efforts up the hills, or our power, or they're dropping back, or they're inconsistent in their watts, would I like try to make a break. Otherwise, I'm just trying to stay with them. So we're at 310 watt average here, 173 beats a minute after 2 climbs. So I'm not feeling at this point, with 7 climbs to go, that I'm gonna try to make any digs or make a break for it. So I'm just keeping an eye on their watts in the rider list, and willing to do the climbs with them if they're climbing around my same pace, which they happen to be. It became, so what I started to notice actually with them was our watts per kilogram, especially on the second part of this climb. I was often like almost, not quite, but almost like 1 watt per kilogram over what they were putting out, and just staying with them. So I was like, okay, I have to put out way more watts than they do up these climbs. And so it was good information to know. Like if you see here, they never get over, well, I mean, I'll say never, but I think they may never get over 5 watts a kilogram on this climb. And you can see where they were 4.3 and I was 5.3, and I'm just staying with them, right? They're still under 5. And at times I'm up almost at 6, right? So I knew that I had to put out a bunch more power to be able to stay with them. So I had that in the back of my mind with every climb. And so with each climb, I started to feel fatigue. You can see this little gap. I'm okay opening a little bit of a gap on the descents because of my rider weight. Again, my rider weight is, I say again, if you've watched any of my previous videos, I mentioned this in every video, basically. My rider weight is 95 kilograms, so it'll take me down the descents with relatively less effort than riders who are dozens of pounds lighter than I am. But I was with after each and every climb, as is expected, quite fatigued and just kind of hanging on, especially towards the second half and last few climbs, just hanging on to their wheels on the descents. Really had to dig deep just to stay with them, and was happy that they kind of had sections where they would take breaks on the descents. So here's where you can see I realize that, or at least this is where I decided I'm going to try to use the power up and see if I get another one. So I saw there that immediately I'm using the feather power up, and another feather power up is queued up there. So this is when I realize that, okay, each and every chance I get, and there's that one, and then there's the sprint segment, which is coming up here, and then the top of the climb. So there's 3 opportunities for power-ups. And I decided I'm going to use the power-up before each of these 2 segments, so the one that we just went past and the sprint segment. So interestingly there, I didn't actually use the power-up before the sprint segment. I think I probably still wasn't sure that it was going to give me another one, and I didn't want to chance it going into this climb. So I must have realized that and took a chance on that later on. But here we go, starting the 4th climb now. And again, I'm feeling it for sure here. 308 watt average. And so just trying to sit in and keep an eye on the rider windings. I have said it before several times in previous videos that sometimes if I'm feeling strong, and the climb is short enough, or the climb is short enough, I will often try to do the climbs on my own terms, so get out ahead of the rider and not try to sit in. Because sometimes when I sit in, it's a bunch of surging, right? If they surge, I have to keep it. I'm constantly checking the watts in the rider list of the riders around me, or in this case, the one rider. And so if I, see a surge too late, then I have to put in a dig to stay with them, and I'll go past them and then they'll come past me. And so to avoid all that, sometimes if I'm feeling strong again or the climb is short, I'll just put in a pretty big effort to get up the climb myself ahead of the riders, so that there is no yo-yoing. There's just me putting a constant effort, and then at the top I'll sort it out. If they come by me, then I'll catch back on if I can. There's the first part of the 4th climb done, and just sitting in, getting ready for this next climb. Again, I'm conscious that I have to put out relatively more power. So they go over 5 here. So I go up to 6. They're at 5. I'm at 5.8, 4.7, 5.7. And you can see I'm just staying with them. So I'm putting out pretty consistently, not all the time, but pretty consistently higher wattage, and just barely staying with them. So again, each and every climb, I am aware of that. There we go, 4th climb done, and just trying to recover as much as I can on these declines. There really wasn't much recovery, I have to be honest, because I was so sort of on edge that they might get away on the descents if they catch me lacking and weak a little mentally and physically. But I did relatively well on all of the descents, thankfully. Here we go, approaching the 5th climb. Still me and this rider. Again, looking at the effort of the 2 riders ahead. They are a minute and 50 seconds and a minute and 34 seconds respectively in front of us. So the rider Whitfield has dropped the rider Siarka, but still likely not going to catch. So my race is a race for 3rd here out of 5. Couple things on that between the top of the last climb and the start of this one. I got to level 100 in Zwift, which is pretty cool. I forgot that I was on level 99 and close to 100. Also, the 2 previous segments, the sprint segment and the banner before that and the villas, I did not use the power-up, so I must not have. Again, I said in the beginning, I think it was around 45 minutes before I started to use the power-ups consistently. So but here we go, up that first part of that first climb. That one was relatively subdued, so I was happy for that. And getting ready for this second part here. Still 306 watt average. And it became on this little section in between the climbs here, it became kind of taxing to keep it at a consistent power. I wanted to take off a lot, and I had to be pretty aware of that. Here we are standing up on this climb, able to stay with the rider again and again, putting out higher wattage than they are. So really dialing up the effort and looking forward to these downhills, but still keeping a keen eye on the rider, making sure they don't get away if I can help it. So here we are starting the 8th climb. Still the two of us. The riders ahead, still putting in their gaps, so likely no chance of catching them. Still a race for 3rd for me. The last couple of climbs went okay. There was one where a little bit of a gap opened up the second part of the climb, where I had to sort of catch up, but other than that, things went well. So here, just trying to match the pace of the rider, get up this first part, and hope that I can stay with them on the little break in between, and then put in a good effort on the second part. I'm at this point, we're just over an hour into the ride, and I'm definitely feeling it. Wondering if I have to give like one really big push up this second part. I know it's gonna tax me physically and mentally. I was prepared to have to let them go, honestly. I'm glad that I didn't, but I was definitely having a little bit of mental weakness on this. I think that didn't match. Obviously you don't know, right? But physically I was strong enough to stay with them. So I did believe in my power enough and my abilities to at least, not let them go any earlier. But I was definitely thinking with each and every climb, okay, this might be the one where they get away. So happy at the top here that didn't happen on this 8th climb. Just ready for the last 2 here. So here we go with the 9th and penultimate climb. Definitely now popping the power-ups before each segment. Just sitting in with the rider. I was interested that they were putting out, on the flats, relatively, high wattage for just the two of us, 3.3, 3.5 watts a kilogram. Wondering if, with obviously the races between us, so to put that amount of power out on the flats, I was curious what the reasoning would be, right? If they would have dialed it back to 3 watts a kilogram and just kept an eye on what I was doing, because if they had done that, they couldn't have known this, but they could have experimented. I would have just sat in behind their wheel at that wattage as well. So they obviously weren't dropping me at 3.5, but I wonder if they were comfortable at that pace and knew that, or thought that it would be enough to sort of sap my legs and take a little bit out with each climb. Otherwise, what would the reasoning be, right? We're not chasing anyone in front. At least I knew that we weren't going to catch anyone. So, and the rider, there's only 4 riders in the list here, but there's another rider that's several minutes behind. So just something interesting that I was wondering, I think, at this point. So here we go, 9th climb, last part of the 9th climb, and happy that I'm able to stay with them again. And at this point, just wondering, are they sort of sandbagging and going to put in, at this point, I'm wondering, do I have to wait for them to put in myself a big dig on the second part? They're going to try to drop me at the top of the second part. So that's what's going through my mind here as we crest this 9th climb. So here was an interesting point where I saw that they dropped back just a little bit, and I decided to put in a dig. I thought maybe that was a moment of weakness from them. And so you see me turn the graph off there to see what kind of gap I have back to them. So there's a 9 meter gap, 8 meter. So I'm putting in, 4 watts a kilogram here to see if I can keep them away. And maybe this will be my opportunity to just put in like a TT effort and keep them away. But they come back. So I'm not sure what that was from them, because it wasn't what they did any of the previous 6 or 7 climbs that we had been together. Not at that point, not to let me get that kind of gap. So I don't know what that was. Maybe it was a bottle break, or maybe they just took their eyes off the screen or something. But anyway, here we are back together. I'm about to hit this last power up in this segment anyway. Again, they're still doing 3.2, 3.1 watts a kilogram here. A little less than that now. And so I'm sitting in 300 watt average, 301 watt average after an hour and about 13 minutes, I think it is at this point. Again, sorry for the screen being cut off. And just gearing up and definitely feeling it both mentally and physically here. And I think the last couple of climbs, right after the sprint segment, when the climb starts, they start to ramp up. They've been ramping up the watts a little more than they had. So I'm, super aware here. Obviously, this is our last climb. So super aware here that I might have to put in a bigger effort even before the climb proper starts. So just keeping an eye on everything here. In terms of the rider and head, they're ahead. Their avatar, where it is in relation to mine, their watts in the rider list. So you can see here, as we approach the climb, let's keep an eye on the watts here. They're putting out 3.5, 3.3. I think you'll see them go up to 4 kind of before the climb. Well, there's the start of the segment. So there you go, 4 watts a kilogram. So as soon as I see that, I'm like, okay, let me lock in here and make sure that I can stay with them, or try my best to stay with them. So here, as I get a 3-meter gap on them, I was sort of hopeful, as I was when I put in that effort on the decline, the descent, that maybe I caught them in a moment of weakness there, but they came right back up. So now I'm just gearing in. You can see this little gap that happens here. And then putting in 4 watts a kilogram here. So I'm definitely, as they are, I'm sure, feeling it at this point and wondering what I can give on this last part here. I figured I was ready to give my all. And so you'll see me hit the power up and just keep an eye on everything. We both put in big efforts here. So they're up over 5 watts a kilogram. So I go up over 6 just to be able to stay with them. And I can see the fire from their tires there on the screen, so I knew they were putting in a big dig, and I'm just trying my best to match them. And I think you'll see them comment in-game that it was they thought I did well to stay with them. So if that was sincere, I think you'll see it here. Yeah, there you go. Well met. So if that was sincere, in my mind, I thought, okay, we're pretty evenly matched here, and now it's just gearing up for the sprint. So it's funny here, I had a bit of a panic where you'll see me hit the power up and then immediately I thought, oh no, I've made a mistake, because I couldn't, I wasn't thinking straight, and I was thinking that one power up that I hit was the last one that I was gonna get. And I hadn't realized, I didn't even see that I had another power up queued there for a few seconds after I hit it, I think. And then I kind of relaxed and said, okay, I have a power up. So here, just trying to figure out, keep an eye on them and see when they're gonna go, when they're gonna hit their power up. I could have been a little bit behind them at this point. And you'll see they hit the power up there and go, and they catch me out just like a second too late. So this was a great sprint by both of us. They put in big power. And here I am up over 1,000 watts for a little short time. And at the end here, I gave it all, and I had to let up. They let up a little bit at the end of this before the line too, but just got me at the line there. Great job by them. Really happy with my ride too. So as we see here, 3.2 watts a kilogram versus 3.6 for the rider I was with, which I think speaks to some good draft tactics. Let me see the Zwift power results here. Again, 300 watts for me, 299 for them. Speaks to how evenly matched we are. They're also a tall rider, taller than I am actually. I'm 6 foot, almost 6 foot 2 inches, and they're taller than I am. So again, glad to have been matched with someone. Happy that actually that this was a harder race than I thought, and I didn't get a chance to sort of take off in the way I wanted to. It was a good ending to a week of training here. We'll get to see there's me giving them a ride on. We'll get to see the stats here. I was going to give them well, I did say GG, but they had left the game before I was able to target them there. So 200, or well, as we saw in Zwift Power, 302 watt average for the hour and 20-ish minutes, I believe it was. Really good ride, pretty good sprints. Bit of a mistake there. I probably could have gone, that could have been me who had gone a second before them, and then I think I would have gotten them in the way they got me. So really good tactical ride there. So we see the stats here, 135 TSS. Hour and 22 minutes for the 52.8 kilometers. Critical power for the hour and 22 minutes was pretty close to my PR, about 20 watts off probably. Well, a little more than that, 30. Well, there you go, 24 for about an hour and 18 minutes. So good ride. Appreciate you all watching. If you have any suggestions for how to make these videos better, anything you'd want to see, any questions you have, feel free to leave a comment. Like the video, subscribe to get notifications. I'll try to keep uploading, and I will talk to you all later. Stay fit, stay healthy. I'll talk to you all later.